This is my sister. It was like any other day until I got a phone call. The call was from my dad. He sounded weird, distant, like he was crying, but it was too shaky for that. My gut feeling told me something was wrong. And when I heard what he said, I knew it was right. My dad told me my sister had died in an accident. At first, I didn't believe him. There was no way. My sister wasn't clumsy. This was my baby sister. How could this happen? It felt surreal, like a bad dream, but it was real. When I got to the house, everyone was crying. Mom, Dad, Grandma. I cried too, because even though I hadn't seen my sister in a while, I still loved her. We were twins, but we took different paths after high school. I moved out of state to finish my education, but she stayed home to take care of Mom. Dad told them they were all eating Trisha's favorite meal when she suddenly choked on a piece of chicken. He tried to help her, but by the time the ambulance arrived, it was too late. She was dead. I remember thinking, at least she died happy. That made me feel better, sort of. After the funeral, everyone went back inside, but I stayed outside for a bit. I wanted to be alone. I pulled out my phone to call my friend and ask if I could stay with her for a few days. But when I did, I saw a series of pictures I'd never seen before. They were of me and Trisha, but these weren't recent photos. They were from last Christmas. I hadn't seen these until now. I remember taking them, but I don't remember posting them online. So why did they only show up now? Was there some kind of explanation, or was my sister trying to send me a message? I didn't know, and I was scared. Then I remembered something else. I had no idea where I was going. What did I want? To eat dinner? What did I do next? I couldn't remember anything from the past year. I tried to tell my parents, but they just kept saying, it's normal to forget things when you're grieving. I could see the concern on their faces, but they just didn't understand. The next morning, I woke up in Trisha's room. It was strange. No one had told me she had a spare bedroom. I asked Mom about it, and she said, "Oh, it's just extra. You can use it if you want." But I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking about the fact that I'd been staying at this house for 5 days, and no one seemed concerned. About how I couldn't remember anything from the past year. My memories were gone. Who was I? And that's when I noticed something else. In every room I looked into, all the photos on the walls were facing away from me, as if they were hiding something. I felt sick to my stomach. I walked over to the living room and flipped one of the frames over. There was a photo of Trisha and me from middle school, but there should have been another one beside it. I searched everywhere, but it was gone. This happened in every room. Every other picture was missing. I was terrified, but I wasn't the only one who was. Later that day, I was eating lunch in silence. Mom kept looking at me like she wanted to say something, but she stopped herself each time. Finally, she let out a long breath and said, "Look, I'm sorry, but you need to get out of here. Your dad and we can't handle this anymore." I thought she was kicking me out of the house, but she wasn't. She brought me to Trisha's old room and said, "You can stay here as long as you need to. Just please stop asking questions." I didn't want to upset her, so I stayed quiet. But when she left the room, I started crying. I felt so alone. That night, I couldn't sleep. So I got out of bed and started looking around. Behind the curtains, I found a small box. Inside was a stack of papers. At first, I thought they were love letters, maybe from a secret admirer, but they weren't. They were hospital bills, and then I saw something else, something scrunched up in the corner. I unfolded it slowly. It was a piece of paper with numbers written on it. At first, I thought they were just random, but then I realized what they were. They were coordinates. The first set took me to the hospital where Trisha died. The second set took me to the police station. And the third took me to an old abandoned house at the end of town. The next day, I went to the police station. I talked to an officer for hours, but he kept telling me, "I'm sorry, but we can't release any information. Sorry. And then he showed me this photo. I'd never seen it before, but it was clearly me. And next to me was someone I recognized. It was Trisha. But what I didn't realize at first was that she was sitting in a chair. She wasn't standing. In fact, she didn't have a neck. The officer told me they'd found her body in this condition in an abandoned house. He also told me that, according to the autopsy report, she'd been strangled. But what he didn't know was that she'd been strangled with my hair. Everything changed after that day. I went back to my old apartment, packed up my stuff, and moved back to my hometown. I needed answers. I hired a private investigator, and he found out something shocking. Trisha hadn't died at the hospital. She died 2 weeks earlier at home. But when the ambulance had arrived, paramedics had saved my life. I'd choked on my food too, but Trisha's had a piece of chicken lodged in her throat for 2 whole weeks. How was I supposed to not notice that? As soon as I learned the truth, I called my parents. I was so angry. Why hadn't they told me? They didn't answer. They just hung up the phone. When I called again, the line went straight to voicemail. They blocked my number. Then I remembered the third set of coordinates. The abandoned house where they found Trisha's body. Maybe my parents would be there. When I arrived, no one was outside, but I could hear voices coming from inside. As I walked through the front door, I heard my mom scream, "Why are you here?" Then she turned to face me with a kitchen knife in her hand. She was pale. Her eyes were wide with fear. Then she dropped the knife and ran to hug me. She was crying. She said, "Oh my God, I thought you were dead." Then she turned to the man beside her. She introduced him as my uncle and said he'd come to help her fix up the house, but I wasn't buying it. I knew what was going on here, and when my uncle tried to leave, I stopped him. I said, "You guys killed my sister." Then I blacked out. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed. I had no idea what had happened. Did I hit my head really hard? Where was my mom? I tried to sit up, but a nurse stopped me. She said, "You're not allowed to put any strain on your body." What? Why? And that's when I saw the bandages. I had tubes sticking out of my arms and legs. I'd been stabbed. The nurse told me everything. I'd run out of the house and collapsed. I've been in a coma for 2 weeks. Now I'm finally back home. Well, back to Trisha's old room. I haven't seen my mom or uncle since the day I woke up from my coma. But it's okay. I don't need them anyway. I have the truth, and it's more important than anything. Before I go, I need to tell you about something strange. After the nurse left, I went to the bathroom. I looked at myself in the mirror, and that's when I saw it. On my chest, there was a small red mark. It was shaped like a handprint. I don't remember being touched. And if I had, wouldn't I have screamed? But it wasn't the only strange thing. The rest of my body was covered in bruises. Some of them were new, but most of them were old. I had no idea I'd been hurt. And that's when I remembered something else. The photos I'd posted on social media, the ones my sister had seen. I scrolled through them on my phone, and that's when I saw it. One of the photos was taken in Trisha's room. I never went there, but when I zoomed in, I saw something scary. It was the same red handprint,